Welcome to another tutorial series. In this video, we'll be dealing with keys in SQL. There are different keys in SQL that are used to build relationships, and we'll be talking about 4 of them in this video, which include the primary key, the foreign key, the composite key, and the unique key. But before we go into all that, we need to understand what keys are. Okay, and keys are a set of attributes that uniquely identify a row in a table. They are used to establish relationships between the different tables or columns in a relational database. And if you remember from our previous video, a relational database is a group of tables that have certain similarities between them that makes them related. So let's start with the primary key. The primary key is a set a column that helps to identify every record present in that table uniquely. So with that column, everybody has their equal or their certain slots. No one can take another person's place. Okay, and there can only be one primary key in a table. The primary key cannot have the same values repeating for any row, so it is not repeating. It has to be just one thing. So when you're given your table, you're going to probably look through all the data given to you to either summarize or analyze, and they're going to look for that particular column where nothing repeats. Maybe it might be a number counting or a name or something, but it doesn't repeat. It's just a particular spot for a particular person. Take this illustration for example. So in this part, we have the serial number, the reg number, the first name, last name, and the department. This is a university setup, okay, with different students in different departments with their registration numbers or matriculation numbers. Now we can realize that we might want to make um, A1, that is the serial number, our primary key. Why? Because it's counting downwards. So 1, 2, 3. No number can come before 3. No number can come before 4, right? But except it's 3 and 4. But the problem with that is that maybe we deleted someone's record, and when you delete something, the line that is below that thing you deleted goes to the line where what you deleted was in. So number 5 becomes number 4, just like in the second picture. So number 5 became number 4, number 3 became number 2. Okay, so that's why we can't use the serial number as our primary key, because should we delete anything, it will skip, and it doesn't uniquely identify a person. So if we are looking for James Gab, we can't go in and type number 1. It won't ring a bell for even him, because he won't know that that's the way we identify him by. But if we use the registration number that every student has uniquely, okay, if we use that number, no matter what happens, whenever you come into the system to type in 101, the details about James Gap will always come out. So that's what the primary key is. So for refreshers, the primary key cannot have values repeating for any row. Let's talk about the foreign key. The foreign key is also used to establish relationships between two tables. Remember that we're dealing with a relational database, so there's always a relationship between this table and that table. So a foreign key will require each value in a column to match the primary key of the other table. I'll come into that. It might sound confusing now, but you will get the hang of it. And then they help to maintain data and referential integrity. So whenever you hear the foreign key, just think about reference, okay? What can we use to reference this table and that table? What's that key factor in between them that is the same? All right, I'll give a pictorial representation of that. Take this picture as an example. Remember that in the previous video where we used our primary key, we used our reg number as the primary key, right? Because we did not want it to skip. We wanted it to be a number that is separated for each individual in the school community, right? So everybody has their own registration or matriculation number: 101, 102, 103, even up to 200. Okay, but that was the list for their names. Okay, it was a list for their names and their departments. that list belongs to the administrative block. But if a lecturer wants to know how many students are in her class, or the examination officer wants to know how many students have registered for their courses and how many courses they had registered for, she will have another table. She won't go through the same table. Sometimes tables are broken down into bits so that it's easier to understand and go through them. So we're going through the table that has the number of courses that each student is doing, right? And we can see that when we type in 102, we can see that he's offering 6 courses, and 102 belongs to Henry Fish, right? Which was in the department of mathematics. Do you see the relation now? So a foreign key is a key that can be referenced in another table, and it should be a primary key from the other table. So in our first table, it was the primary key, right? Registration number was the primary key. And in our second table, registration number is still the primary key. But now, in a bigger sense, we call it a foreign key because the two, that number, that particular column, foreign registration number, can uniquely join these two places together. Another key we're going to look at is the unique key. So the unique key is a set of columns or a column that uniquely identifies each record in a table. Quite similar to the primary key, alright, but the problem is that the unique key can have a null value, while the primary key cannot have a null value. So the primary key keeps counting from 101, 102, 103, even till 200. But for the unique key, you can skip 103 and maybe fill it in by the time you're done writing till 200, right? But for the primary key, you cannot do that. That means if we're going by that definition, our reg number is no longer our unique key. Do you see it? Our reg number cannot be our unique key because it uniquely identifies a record in a table, yes, and all values are unique, yes, but it cannot be a null value. Okay. So when you are given a table, there's always another column there that can be described as a unique key. You can use that key also as the primary key, but just to be on the safer side, stick to what you're able to fully understand. So for this table, I use the email as the unique key. Why? Because no two people on this earth can have the same email address, right? Even when you're creating a new one, you have to change your name, and even when you're putting in your full name, there's always this message that this name is already taken, and you're like, who has my name again? But that's it. No one can have the same email address as another person. Okay, so you know that the email is a unique identification for each student. If I should type in your email, I can get your details about everything about you as a student in school. If I should type in your registration number, I can get details about you as a student in school, right? And that's all you need to do. But departments cannot be used because if we type in chemistry, we're going to see like 50 to 1,000 people that are offering chemistry in the university. Okay, and we can't type in your last name because there are plenty gaps. Even on this list, there's going to be another gap somewhere, or there's going to be another James or Henry. So we can't use those names. We can't use just one name, but we can use two names, and I'll get to that. We have the last key, the composite key. So the composite key is when you use two columns or two attributes to help identify each row. So say a student forgot their matriculation number and they said their email, they don't really remember how they created it and what's the exact number on their email. So let's say the email is out of the equation, matter of fact, and it's just their registration number and their name with their department. But then they don't even remember their matriculation number or registration number. So what's the next thing you can do to help this student find his record? You ask him what are his names. What is your name? James Snow, Henry Gap. And then when you write Henry Gap, you see a list of all the Henrys, right? But then you see who is Henry Gap. So from this picture, you can see that we're looking for James Gap, but we're going to use the first name and the last name. So when we type in James Gap, we can even see 3 James Gap. It's a university database, so there are going to be different James Gaps in different departments. But the trick part is when we see your department. So if he is a chemistry person, he will pick chemistry. Okay, James Gap, chemistry. This is the email he had. This is his year of admission. Is everything about that particular person is going to link all together, and that's how you know that okay, this detail I have is actually correct. This is for this person, and this is for another person, and that's how you're going to use all this to work together for your own good. So over the last 8 to 9 minutes, we have spoken about the primary key, which we said it cannot have a null value and is used to uniquely identify a column in a table. And then we have the foreign key, which is used to reference another table. Okay, and we have talked about the composite key, which is a combination of two attributes or two fields or two columns to help us find what we're looking for. And we've also talked about the unique key, a key that is quite different from the primary key, but it's also unique and helps us to identify quickly, but it can have a null value. So those are the major key points about those 4 keys, and I hope that you can remember it whenever you're asked or whenever you're working or by the time we are putting this into practice. This is the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Until then, it's bye.